We need to talk about something. We need to talk about the rate cuts that are coming. We need to talk about QT that is going to end. And we need to talk about the sentiment a little bit and the coins that I'm currently looking at with the most insane indicator ever to see how that is looking right now. Because if you assume that we are in a bear market, then sure, there's no reason to be bullish, right? You can maybe get a dead cat bounce or whatever, but then you probably assume that the next pump is going to be something like this. But if you feel like, hey, this is maybe not a bear market, then you can maybe assume that prices will go way higher. Now, I'm not gonna waste too much time on that necessarily. I gave a lot of reasoning lately why I don't see a reason why we are in a bear market. If you do feel so, then fine, then you maybe want to consider selling the current pump that we have, because at the moment Bitcoin is sitting at $91,500 and it is facing some big resistance right now if you actually draw this box correctly. But there are a lot of resistance points between here and give or take $95,000, 94 maybe. So this might be a good area to offload if you are bearish right now, right? However, if you are not, which you should not be because there's no reason to, but you're gonna to suit yourself, but I won't do that, then there are a couple interesting things to take a look at right now. And it's looking pretty cool, actually. So welcome to the Fomo Factory. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the bell notification on, and anything else, it's all your homework for today, I think. In the meantime, I will continue creating the videos, and when things are starting to look bearish, of course I will turn bearish. But when things are saying basically, hey, everything is so freaking undervalued right now, there is so much stimulants, liquidity injections coming into the market, the 4-year cycle theory is going to be wiped off of the table so extremely hard this cycle. We see where the whole business cycle is sitting. Then we also know that the current sentiment is something to counter trade. When Bitcoin was sitting 10K lower a couple days ago, actually, than where we are sitting right now, the fear was so extremely high. And I said, man, even in a bear market, you just want to buy the fear, right? And that kind of worked perfectly, because just on Bitcoin alone, this already went up with 13%. And you might feel like, what's 13%? Bitcoin 13% in a couple days. If you simply just buy the fear, again, that always worked, and that worked once again as well. Now, we need to talk about a couple interesting things. The Fed it's getting more and more likely that they're going to cut in December, right? Polymarket now sees a 84% chance of a 25 basis points decrease in a couple days, actually. Well, a couple days in December. I think it's 10th, actually. I have to check the date, actually. However, I don't think that this is going to be a big difference. I think that the market is now already kind of pricing this in, though. But it's more about the signal that they are giving, right? This one rate cut won't help us. The rates actually going back to 2%, that's going to fucking blow up the market big time. Let it be that Powell is going to be replaced by somebody who's going to be way more dovish, and that's going to happen in May. So that's a very, very, very good thing to look at. Now, there's also something that has not been mentioned as much as rate cuts, while I think that that's even more interesting. And that's the fact that QT is going to stop from the 1st of December, so actually in a couple days. And that is just good for the market, simply because, hey, QT, quantitative tightening, they're shrinking, they're sucking up the liquidity, right? It's a vacuum cleaner. It sucks the liquidity, it's getting taken out. They at least stop doing that. I'm not saying that this is QE and that this is big stimulants, but they at least stop doing that. And in the meantime, this whole run for Bitcoin has been a QT run, right? So this was a run during bad market circumstances, right? When we entered the bear market here, it was simply because there was unbelievable tightening back then, right? They were raising rates by, in total, 500 basis points or something like that. And of course, markets don't really like that. Now, if you expect a bear market, then I wonder, okay, but why, right? There's no tightening, it's going to stop. It's going to be the opposite, right? So I would be very careful with being bearish. Like short term, I see good resistance, but expecting a bear market over the coming years back to 40K, like for 1 year long, like a regular bear market, just because it's a 4-year cycle, yeah, that doesn't make sense because the 4-year cycle is really inaccurate, actually. And if you look at the things that are way more accurate, like I spoke about before, the ISM, yeah, that's looking completely different, right? So we have the ISM, which is like marking everything, every top, every crash, every bottom, every what sort of top. And then we have the 4-year cycle theory, which marked 3 tops coincidentally with the ISM. So I'm like, okay, I keep coming back to that, but just be careful because it's just a real weak narrative. And I see people putting a lot of faith and money on just that. And that might be what exactly is going to wreck you if you put all your eggs in that basket. Now, when it comes to QT ending, you can see that last cycle was interesting. QT ended, and that happened at the same date, basically, as where Ethereum bottomed on its Bitcoin pair. I think that from the top of my head, it was the 9th of September 2019, but it could be a couple days earlier, later. I'm not completely sure anymore. But if you look at that, then let me remove this indicator, by the way, a little bit. You can see that marked the bottom for Ethereum on its Bitcoin pair. Now, if you now look at Ethereum on its Bitcoin pair, yeah, like unless this is going to crash in a couple days, right? Then this time that didn't really happen. So we have to wonder, like, hey, was QT ending the reason for the bottom in the first place, or was just like narrative follows price, like Ethereum, Bitcoin just bottomed, and yeah, then we got QT to stop, right? Could be. We just have one data point right there. But it is interesting, as from there, things went up pretty hard. And that was against Bitcoin, right? If Bitcoin then goes down, then sure, it could be that ETH or other alts would have gone down with it, or maybe not. Depends how hard it goes up against Bitcoin, against how hard Bitcoin is going down against the dollar. But if you look at what happened with Bitcoin in 2019 when it ended, that was, let me see, here, give or take, right? So here QT ended and Bitcoin was already in a downtrend, right? And just the ending of QT, yeah, look, I mean, it's helpful, but it's not something that has a direct impact. That liquidity, it all takes a long time to come to flow into the market. So what happened at that point, Bitcoin went down another 30%-ish, right? And then we had COVID, of course, but that's like, yeah, these kind of black swans, that shit happens. But after QT ended, Bitcoin still went down. Does it mean that Bitcoin now will go down because QT ends? No, of course not, right? That has nothing like, that's not the assumption that I'm trying to make. But all I'm saying is QT ends, good for the market, especially mid-long term. Does it mean that we cannot go down in the meantime, or that should mark the local bottom? No, right? Bitcoin and crypto is more volatile than just that. Overall, if you look at when it ended, right, and that was this period right here, yeah, I mean, if you look what came after, great, right? All good. It feels like we are kind of somewhere here right now. Right. And I'm not saying that we will go down another 30% from this point, but I'm also not saying that we won't. Right. I don't know what's going to happen short term. And I think you should not try to predict that because, that's just hard. But long term, it's all a little bit more clear. Right. What happened to altcoins back then on the Bitcoin pair? Because, hey, where's alt season, right? There are too many altcoins. That's the reason why we don't have an alt season, of course. No, of course not. If you look at the Russell against S&P, I've showed this many times before as well. If you look at this chart right here, yeah, overlay alt season on that, you get basically the same chart, right? you see that it's going down, bam, bottom, goes up, and then it goes down again, and it's just all a fat ass, dead cat bounce after dead cat bounce. Right, this is a macro related thing. It has nothing to do with that there are too many coins. If you don't shop coins outside of the top 1,000, I would say, then that's not an issue that concerns you, actually. Interesting thing though, I said in one of the latest videos, like it could be that we get a small bounce or a bounce right here because we went to the 382 for the USDC and USDT dominance. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Question is, how far can it go, right? The 236 level is the next big one that comes in, and that should be big support for stablecoin dominance. So keep that in mind, right? This rejection right here, this brought back like 10K, 11K in Bitcoin. And from this point, it should be around another 10%. So could it be that if this continues, Bitcoin, tries to find its way back to the higher 90s? Sure. Right, but we can also just create support out of nowhere. Keep that in mind. Now, back to altcoins on the Bitcoin pair. The good thing is that they have been holding up pretty well during this whole correction. It looked like ETH got most wrecked of all of it, and that's nice. If you took the ETH to altcoins trade on the 1st of November as well. If not, Ethereum will come back. That's not a problem, but I am going to show you why I'm not going to buy Ethereum right now. I would rather buy Bitcoin actually than Ethereum. But if you look at altcoins on the Bitcoin pair as well, when we got QT to stop, which was around here, right? That was initially the bottom for altcoins on the Bitcoin pair as well. You could say here, bam, alt season started. We got a big ass flush out and then they went up. Does it mean that that has to happen again? I fucking hope so. And let me tell you why I say I hope so. Because this crash right here wasn't caused by QT. Of course not. Like QT stopping and risk assets, they sell off. How does that make sense? Right? But I think that it has to do something with this actually. QT stopped, right? People thought like, okay, nice, we're going strong. And you see that altcoins on the Bitcoin pair went up. So people, yeah, sure, they buy altcoins, right? Bitcoin blue line, flat, nothing happens. Then what happened? Bitcoin started to rip really hard. And then people probably felt like, oh, I can make these gains with a safer asset. Screw these alts, selling back to Bitcoin, right? And that was a huge run for Bitcoin. And during this correction, that was actually when alt season did start. So I do think that, again, it's just one data point, but QT stopping is just good for risk assets. It's simple, right? If we get such a flush out, then it's probably because Bitcoin goes on the run. And I think that that is also what's going to happen. Because what else getting affected by the stop of QT and the rate cuts? The ISM. Right? And the ISM is the leading indicator for all of this. Again, ISM for the people that missed it, but that just simply shows how much money is there in the system. What can people afford? What can they spend? Do they have money to spend it on products, right? If they don't have that, right, like down here, yeah, who is going to buy risk assets, right? Bitcoin went up, sure, slow but steady, but still, right? But because it's Bitcoin, it gives you returns. It's fine. But gambling, right, on alts, yeah, people are not going to do that if they are tight on their budget. And then I feel like, ooh, ISM, that responds pretty positive to the stop of QT, of course, right? To the rate cuts, to the money supply going up, to the dollar weakening, right? All of that kind of stuff. And by looking at this, I'm like, okay, nice. We have a lot of upside. This justifies why we can get a run similar as we got after 2019 as well. Right? Betting on a bear market right now, I get it. Especially if the 4-year cycle is everything that you know. But if you know about this and then still bet on the 4-year cycle, then I feel like, ooh, that's a speculative play, a real speculative play. And again, I will be kind of careful with that. But again, why I said that I would not buy ETH right now, and why I would buy Bitcoin and certain other assets. Well, again, we have blockchain decoded coming out soon, and the risk wave is one of the indicators that's really good. And we have done a little update before we bring it out. And this is now looking at render. But this is just showing the risk level where render is sitting. And risk levels are beautiful oscillators. It works perfectly. And at the moment, the risk level for render is sitting at 13%. 13% is low. It's really, really low, right? It's almost bear market bottom low. Right now, be fair, that's way DCA. It's not a buying flash signal, because here when it was sitting at 13%, yeah, still after that 13%, close to 13% at least, we still got a drop, right? When it was sitting at 13%, yeah, that was just a place to buy actually. But this is not meant to mark bottoms. Now, what I think else is really interesting is we are creating this risk table right here. And for example, it shows like, hey, in what risk level does render spend most time? And that's around 55, right? That's where it historically spends most time. At this level where we are right now, we don't spend a lot of time right here. Lower, like add it all up, like that makes you think, like, right? Like, oh, it's kind of dangerous to bet on these real low prices because they are not sustainable, right? It's like 10% of the entire time render has spent at or lower than these levels. So be careful when being bearish. But it also shows how much time it took on average to get from the current risk level to the other risk levels. And what you see is that, you know, let's say you feel like, I want to buy in low, and I think that render is going to 5% risk or whatever. On average, from this level, it took 25 days, but it spent 1% of the time there. So that might help you if you are trying to time something. However, it also takes around 25 days, right, to get to level 20, 25. And that would be a price of, let's say, the average to 25. It's now 177. This shows you how much more upside there is compared to the downside, right? Now, again, spending most time at around risk level 55, at the moment, that would be $5 for render. And it spends quite some time there as well. From the current level, that takes 120 days. Right? But it's $5.20. It's a 3x, give or take. That's not bad for render. Now, once this releases, which is soon, I keep promising that, but we want to make sure that we fine-tune it very well. You can look at all different things. Altcoins on the Bitcoin pair, altcoins on the Ethereum pair, every single coin out there, whatever you want. But one thing is that Ethereum, if you look at that, Ethereum is now sitting at risk level 47, which is still quite high, right? And it looks to be somewhat like this, right? We had a big bottom right here, and we have a big bottom right here, and we are sitting at this level, around this level twice, with a gap. Like, it's not perfect, but it feels like this place might be somewhere this or this, I don't know. But just ask yourself, like, buying there, this price right here, was that bad? Like, I don't know if that was such a bad idea, actually. Plus, yeah, I don't know, but ETH, right, when you look at 2017, it topped at a risk level of 100 pretty much. Here it topped at a risk level of 90. Actually, here it topped at a risk level of 97. If the top was in October, like people like to say, then that was at a risk level of not even 60? Because this is not a diminishing indicator. And so if you want to be somewhat conservative, you can say like, well, back to risk level 80, right? Could also be 100. I mean, if you look at the last cycles, right? But let's say 80. Well, 80 for ETH would be $6,700. Right? Could go there in 106 days. In around the same days, 103 right here, could also go to 1,400. Right? So that's either losing half from kind of what it is right now or doubling it. Yeah, it's not the best bet in my opinion right now. Right? Not the best one. If we look at Bitcoin, all right, let me pop that up real quick. You can see that this risk level is already sitting way lower, right? 30%. That's looking quite good, right? This cycle, we never went to a high risk level as well, like never, right? We did this, like COVID, and then boom, down, right? That's where we are right now. Even this indicator shows like, hey, this is kind of like 2019, right? The bear market lows, if we get there right now, like this risk level, insane. I doubt it, because this was a low risk level reached after a real high one. Right? I doubt that we get there though. But if we do, then yeah, I mean, here we went to risk level very shortly. We actually wicked all the way down, I think, to 0.5%. Crazy. But overall, it was more sitting around 5. Here we went to 0. Right, and here it went to 3, well, 4. So if you feel like, hey, this is a real bear market, we had a euphoric top and everything, and 4-year cycle and all of that, and we're going into a normal bear market right now, then 5% risk level, give or take, right? That's here. 5% is 50,000, 53,000, and 1%, pretty much nothing, is 50,000. I would say that should be the worst case, right? All these levels right here that you see, the most extreme low, the most extreme high, are all based on how it's moving right now. And every single level is just as realistic to get. So that's the worst case, like 50K, losing another 50% from this point, not even, right? 40%. If you look at 100% for Bitcoin, also got there, right here. And we got like into the deep, like 80s, or was it even 90s right here? 95, right? In this market right here, in the last one, we went to 89, right? Yeah, and now here. Right, so, okay, also with, you know, Bitcoin, let's be conservative. Let's say 80, right? Have the lowest top ever. All right, 80, cool. 80% is 264K. That's 3x from this point, give or take. That's a better risk-reward ratio than with ETH right now. And it sounds like 264K, never. Like, welcome to crypto. And could never happen, then it happens, plus a little more, right? That's how it is. If you look where Bitcoin spends most time, that's around 45, by far, actually. 45% is now sitting at 125K. Average time to get there from this point is 57 days. It's less than 2 months. That's doable. In less than 2 months, we could also be sitting at 66 though. We'll see. I guess we'll see. Right? But interesting stuff. And super accurate stuff as well. So for now with Bitcoin, I feel like, yeah, you know, $91,000. It's nice. We have a bounce. It's, again, not something that I am going to celebrate at the moment. It's not enough for me to say like, well, this is looking good and looking bullish and all of that. So far, this is a dead cat bounce, in my opinion, right? Like, let's be honest. Short term, I'm definitely not convinced. We really have to break above, let's say, 95 and stay there and hold it for a week or two, I think. But over the long term, I'm like, yeah, the narratives, the news, and although I'm not a big fan of that, but again, most important, the charts, the liquidity, right? It is all showing like being bearish at the moment. I know that I got a lot of shit for it back in April. I got a lot of shit for it back in, right, like last week, basically, when I was bullish at low prices. But not a fucking single time has proven to be wrong if you are bullish on low prices and at bad sentiment. That's just what you want to do, right? So looking all quite good. Now I want to go over 2 or 3 comments just to measure the sentiment in the market right now, see how that's looking, if people are still happy with everything that's going on. Somebody asked Stefan, can I assume that I can get free access to blockchain decoded indicators if I have enough Web3 whales coins staked? There will be a benefit when it comes to blockchain decoded if you are a Web3 whale staker, but we will announce it in the Telegram right there, so stay tuned. How about Festivus? I have no fucking clue what that is. Show us proof that you made money, you absolute clown. Yeah, I'm gonna share my wallet publicly and take on a lot of risk because there's somebody in the YouTube comments that doesn't believe me or doesn't want to look at previous videos. That sounds real smart. People, Bitcoin will retest 50 weekly moving average sooner or later. If rejected, then the right shoulder form, then say goodbye to Bitcoin. Goodbye as in this cycle, you mean, right? I don't assume that you mean that Bitcoin will be dead. The thing with the 50 weekly moving average for me is though that I don't really pay too much attention to that kind of stuff. Like, I know it's nice for shorter term momentum, but again, if you look in for example, right here, 2019, we broke below it, right here, we broke below it, and we still went into a bull market. In 2012, we broke below it right here, we were above it, and yay, bull market, and then, below it, so no, and also, if you apply this on, for example, the altcoin market, I was also very accurate, right? Break, bear market, break, bear market. And then it's just like, okay, now we're above, below, and it still goes up. Right? It's because these shorter term moving averages, they are being hit more often as the crypto market just moves slower over time. So I feel like, let's not put a magnifier too much on only one moving average. Again, short term, it can definitely show you the momentum. But in my opinion, it has nothing to do with a bull and a bear market because there are just too many invalidations. And 2, on other charts, you can already see that it doesn't work. And 3, if it does work, hey, alt season, because hey, the Bitcoin dominance is struggling quite a lot to get above the 50 weekly moving average right now, right? So yeah, you could also look at from the bright side. But going back there, that's quite high, one in the 100-ish, give or take, $102,000 at the moment. But it's now turning down as Bitcoin is now below it. So it will be, at a certain point, it will be testing it, right? But we'll see. Like, sure, we can get a rejection, and I do think that we at the first test will get a rejection, right? Like, just as in a bull market, we at the first test get some support, and eventually you will break it, and it's the other way around as well. But I don't think we should like determine if it's a bull or bear market, like ignore all the liquidity that's coming in and what's actually happening in the macro. That all doesn't matter because we have a line here. Like, it's good to keep in mind though, but not always on it. I would greatly appreciate a response to Virtual Bacon's video from this afternoon. He flipped bearish on altcoins and said that he is basically only going to use them for momentum trades. Hard to hear that and feel good about things. Well, I mean, you know, the more people flip bearish on something, we know that the better that is, right? That's also just a dude with a camera. And it's just another bear, right? And the more we have, the more the bulls can celebrate. So overall, I think that that's not a bad thing. And I think he's a smart guy. I like his content a lot. But yeah, I just don't think it's wise to flip bearish on altcoins right now with everything we discussed about the ISM and all of that. And also, if you look at altcoins on the Bitcoin pair, like how for him also, I haven't seen the video, but how is he bullish all the way and now starts to become bearish? Like, that dude has more experience. Like, I have to watch a video to see it in context, but I cannot see why. Like that sounds like noobish, actually. Thanks for the ISM discovery. Now I can go from a holiday in peace. Enjoy your holiday. watch some YouTubers, Crypto Archie. He sold everything and now he's crying on the sidelines. Funny stuff. Yeah, it's like, but like, it's not up to YouTubers, right? Like, how many people flip bearish at lows? Like everyone. Like that's how people do it. They fuck it up, and yeah, some people with cameras are not different. Yeah, it's not wise. Like I said, you just buy the lows, right? So yeah, it's, I don't know. It's just, people just do stupid things when they get emotional. 40, 50K brewing. Ooh, well, look, everything is possible. But be careful, like being on the sideline because you think it will happen, because there is a higher chance that it won't. And yeah, then what's your backup plan, right? Always have a plan. Feel like it could be around bottom time right now. It'd be good for you to include the stochastic RSI on your timing. The momentum is pretty good, especially on the weekly and 2 weekly chart. I've tried out hundreds of different indicators, and I found personally that stock RSI is always good. Yeah, it's a good one, although it's not perfect, but not an indicator is, right? But it's a decent momentum indicator, and I am not looking at it a lot anymore. I had a reason for that, and I think it was just... It's just something you want to use in combination with different indicators. That's the thing. Because trading on the stock RSI alone, it could work, but it's not always that perfect if you look at it on the weekly, right? The thing is, though, that, for example, here, right? Here it was low, but it was sitting low for a long time. And in the meantime, the price, you see, went down. So it's more like how you use it. But overall, I mean, yeah, if you, especially in a higher time frame, look, overall, if you take profits around highs and buy back around lows, take profit around highs, you see it on the chart, right? Buy back around lows, works, but use it in combination with different stuff. But at the moment, it is showing like, yeah, we are not there yet, but there is indeed probably, according to the stochastic RSI, especially on this time frame, a pretty good rally brewing. But it might be that we need that as well, right? We could stay here for a while, bringing Bitcoin down, and then we get that rally, and that kind of just brings us back to where we are right now. That's possible. But it could also be possible that Bitcoin is just going to make new all-time highs from this bounce. Like, let's be honest, that's what Bitcoin is doing all the time. Right? It goes up pretty fast, then it goes sideways down for a long time, and repeat. And we are now actually just literally doing the same. Only difference is that we now went down quite fast in a short time. But that's, in my opinion, just a self-fulfilling prophecy, because people look at the calendar and be like, oh, cycle's over, so I should sell. Okay. But if the underlying narrative is not like that relevant, then it's also not a sustainable thing. But yeah, it could be. This dude always says at the lows that you should sell crypto. And you should buy this and that. And he always talks about metals and all that kind of stuff. And that's nice. But again, it's emotional behavior, right? If you do that at the tops, then that's nice, but be a little careful if you see these comments around the sentiment that we have right now and the downtrends that we have right now, because, yeah, no offense, but you have been an insanely good buying indicator, dude. So, but okay, we'll see. Maybe one day you'll get it. So, yeah, that's kind of it for now. So overall, it's just my analysis. Like, short term, nice bounce. I would not celebrate until we sustainably close above 94, 95-ish. Because this is a pretty good point to get a rejection at this point, actually. So short term, anything could happen. Long term, great. Still looking fantastic, actually. Fantastic. With the liquidity injection that's coming, and the QT is going to stop, and the rate cuts that are coming. Yeah, I'm not going to sell just because it's November. That doesn't make sense. I want to look at what's actually going on right there. So consider it. Take it in consideration at least, and then make your best educated guess. So far, Thanks for watching. Like the video if you like the video. If you don't like the video, dislike it twice and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.